Night Owls with Alan Robson.
What are we talking about next? You make the call. 0191 488 3188.
Greatest Hits Radio.
Big hello to the Knights with a K. The Knights of the Night, the great truck drivers that move up and down the country. Thank you very much for getting behind me. And you taxi lads and lasses, always been my loyalist friends out there. So thank you very much for spreading the word of the owl on a Sunday night. And let's go across and have a chat with Louise, who is with us. And, of course, she is in South Shields. So let's see what the crack there is. If my mouse will do what I want it to do, and it'll go everywhere except to Louise. Hello, Louise!
Hello, Alan.
Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm not too good at the minute, so I apologise for the way I sound.
Oh, what's happened? What's the matter?
Well, my sons thought it was nice to share his germs, so,
Dear.
you know, children who go to nursery and then obviously spread the germs back home.
Yeah, I must say, the one thing that I give you ladies credit for, because dads seem to have more sense, but you'll see, this is what happens. Little kid crying, snot, like just a fountain of snot from the nose, over the top lip, into the mouth, and down, right away down the front of the shirt. Mum will pick up, nurse, make right, stop him crying, give him a kiss, get a tissue, wipe his nose, and Dad'll not even notice. He'd be looking somewhere else on purpose, knowing that you, being the loyal and steadfast mother, will see it and do all the right nurturing things. It's a cop-out. Next time it happens, hand it to him. Let him have some problems with it. That's what I think.
Well, I've been looking after the baby and he's been looking after me, so I'll not sort of fault him. I'll give him his dues, I will.
Fair dues. Has he spoilt you a bit while you've been sniffly?
He's been doing a lot of jobs around the house and just helping, basically, so it's been a big help, so I'll not fault him.
It does make it sound like this is new to him.
Oh, definitely not. Although it makes us wonder sometimes.
Yeah, it's amazing how capable men can be when you really put them to the test, and it's just
exactly.
Because I always remember, and this is with a previous wife, which is probably why she's a previous wife. I'm in the house, the ironing needs doing. It's piling up. It's piling up. It's piling up. So she says to me, "Could you give us a hand, do a bit of ironing?" I says, "No problem." And I did it horrifically. You know, the trousers, but ironed the wrong way, you know, so they stuck out. I did all of that, and she never asked me again. And I mean, but that was the plan. The plan was, I'm not going to get stuck doing this again if I don't have to. So you got to be careful with men. They're an oily bunch. You got to be careful.
Definitely.
So how's the baby now? Is he getting better?
He's still getting over. It was croup he had, so he's still getting over that. He was given some steroids and seeing the pig up. And that's my husband saying he has been jumping in.
Fair enough. We'll let you off. Good man.
What I will say is thank you for my mug. I feel like a proper night owl now.
Hey, there you go.
It was all good. I was absolutely amazed when Nicola texted me. It was obviously the night time and obviously fell asleep.
Stupid time. You'd be asleep. You'd have got it in the morning, did you?
I got it in the morning. I was like, oh,
that's
wow.
Good.
So it was great. It made us feel good. Because a lot's happened since I last spoke to you as well.
What else?
I'm dealing with my anxiety again. So what I will say is that, you know, it's a pleasure as always to hear your voice, more so when I need you. So it is. But it's terrible. What I'm hoping to obviously discuss with you is, like, you know, how obviously it is a stigmatism, you know, where like people sort of like, oh, they've got anxiety, you know, and
but people think you can put it on when it suits you. That's what people think about it. If we're honest.
Exactly. It's definitely not one of them things. No. It's definitely a real thing.
Well, was it the stress of the band being ill and you being ill on the top of it that kicked it off, or what kind of things send you down that road?
Dealing with like life in general. I tend to overanalyze things. So like if, for example, I'm ill at the minute, I tend to think something bad's going to happen from us being ill. So then it all spirals into a vicious circle, and we go again round and round.
Yeah.
So it's it's one of them things. I mean, I have sort of been to see somebody, and obviously I need to dig the notes back out of when I've seen somebody and sort of go through them and find the time, really, because, I mean, kids.
No, it's they steal every spare moment that you've got. The thing that I've noticed with this, though, is the worst thing you can do if you're prone to anxiousness in general is go to bed wanting to sleep, but you're not tired, because every little thing gets in your head and you don't sleep, and it's like 8 o'clock in the morning when you want sleep and you can't have it because the bairn's got to go to school, da-di-da-di-da. And that's when, so you have a hugely miserable day, and it's all because we overthink. People who care overthink things, I really believe that.
Definitely. Well, I am a carer, so obviously I'm a carer as my job, so like I do sort of tend to overthink a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, what's he saying? The great voice in the background, what did he say?
He's just saying obviously work sometimes gets on top of me, so but like it's like life in general, so it's sort of dealing with the sort of pressures at work, just the pressure of everyday life, Alan, And
yeah, but you see, you've placed yourself, and I know you've got problems of your own, who hasn't, but you've put yourself in this job, because I think caring for other people, as we discussed the other week, when I had to look after my parents for no time in the grand scheme of things, I found that not just difficult, I found it horrific, truly horrific. And that's with your own family. Yeah. And for you then to open your heart and say, I'm going to love all of these people who are individuals, all with different needs. You cannot say this to that one, but you can have a right laugh with that one. And you've got to gauge how much you can get away with each one and to make them become your friends. But as soon as they're friends, all of their problems are your problems.
Exactly, yeah.
I get it.
Totally.
And I think it's one of the hardest jobs on earth, being a carer, if you're a good one.
Yeah, well, I try anyway.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it, absolutely.
Definitely, Alan. So, when is the Halloween? How can I watch the Halloween special? Is it on YouTube?
It's just on YouTube. So the idea is we've got a thing online, I believe, where you can just subscribe for the Night Owls YouTube channel. Say it starts at 10 o'clock on Thursday. They send you a little reminder on the night saying, hey, 10 o'clock, Night Owls. So
excellent. That's
all. So it's this Thursday, first time ever. So we're trying something a little bit different, but hopefully you guys will like it. So
yeah, fingers crossed, Alan.
Absolutely.
And I hope you are going to get more nights. I will say that.
Thank you very much. We're working towards it, but it's a slow business to you've got to get everybody motivated and on, and fingers crossed we can make that happen. But thanks
all
for
good
coming
things
on.
Come to those who wait.
Yeah, it's like that thing where you're waiting for your turn at the doctor's, and every time the screen goes pling, you're looking up like a dog with his tongue hanging out. It's a bit like that. But however,
yeah, I totally agree.
Hey-ho, Louise, we will battle on. But thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Alan. Take care.
Love to you and the mister as well. Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye. And she lovely. And is that the same for everybody who works in the care industry? Does everybody carry everybody else's difficulties on their shoulder? Because if that's the case, that really is, that's something. That really is a difficult thing to deal with. And it's self-inflicted, though, isn't it? And for years, people have said to me about various things that I've done with night owls across the world. They've said, but you've got to keep professional distance between you and the listener. And I think, I'd love to. I just can't do it. I mean, it's just can't do it. Somebody comes up and wants a cuddle, I'll get a cuddle. That's the way that it is. And if somebody's in need and I can help them, I'll help them. And that's what we've done over all these years. Help each other if we possibly can. And I can't work the professional division thing. And I think if you're a nurse or a doctor and a surgeon especially, I bet you need to. That's a case I'm working on. I'm going home now and completely forgetting about it. I've had a job with that all my life, I must say. 0191 488 3188. If you have worked in the world of care and you would like to have your two pennyworth, call Nicola now. We'll try and get you on as quick as we can on 0191 488 3188. Or maybe you are in a care home, or a member of your family is, and you're not getting the kind of care that you want. We'd like to hear that too. Now, on the back of Elaine locking her telephone in her car, not being able to get it for 8 hours till her husband came back from work. That was her biggest fright. Well, Ben Mabon says, last week we had a power cut. No Wi-Fi networks available. Alan, you would have thought it was the apocalypse. Love the show, Sarah. Thanks, Ben. Just a bit of, when there's no electricity, I remember some years ago they said during a blackout in America, when all the electric went off, 9 months later there was a massive number of children born because people had nothing else to do but actually talk to each other and love one another. Sounds like a plan. And I tell you, it's a good job this man wasn't in the dark. It's George from Lanchester. Hello, George.
Hello there, Alan. Good evening, my man.
Hello, mate. How are you tonight?
Not bad. I'll tell you what, I could simulate a power cut if I switched the light off and made my way over to Hazel. She'd say, "Get that bloody light on." So, talking about the care industry. I know someone very close to Nicola, actually, who was in the care industry. And, yeah, she used to come away from the job with some of their cares on her shoulders because I don't know who it was who wrote quite correctly. If you listen and take some of the load off somebody's shoulders, it's on yours then.
Yes, no, I believe that.
And it's quite true. And as you say, if you think somebody needs a cuddle, you'd give them a cuddle.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see, nowadays we live in this world where if you give somebody a cuddle, it's sexual assault. And so, in some people's view, so you do have to be really kind of make sure that you hit the right target, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, yeah, you're quite right, because these things can be misconstrued.
Absolutely.
But you see, we live in this PC world now, where a lot of it is absolute rubbish.
But we had this big thing kicking off in America where women were gathering together to say, we're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to tell the world about all of the people that have tried with the, the casting couch approach. We're going to tell the world if anybody's ever goosed me or chatted me up or forced you in between the filing cabinets at work. And all of this stuff came out, and a lot of people were prosecuted. And I don't have any problem with evil people having bad things happen to them. Got no problem with that. But with respect to the later stuff, and I don't know how they expect you at work. Sometimes you might fancy somebody, you might chat them up and have a go and see if they would like to be your girlfriend.
Yeah,
it happens in every industry on earth, and it's normal. But now, if anybody's gone up and asked, I asked you last month and you said no, but would you reconsider and come out with me again? He's harassing me, sexual harassment.
Yes,
and you think,
verbal abuse.
So, for the real heavy stuff, I don't have a problem, but I do think it's kind of filtered down to be maybe a little bit too PC at times.
Yeah, and of course there is this thing about, it's getting so bad over here as well, suing somebody for the slightest thing.
Right, yes.
Like the person in the States who sued McDonald's because the coffee was too hot. And they got $1 million in compensation. What do you want? Cold coffee?
Right.
If you wanted iced coffee, they'd say, this is too cold, I'm going to sue you.
Right.
And they do, they sue for the slightest thing. And that's the culture. You know, if a 3-year-old kiddie on a trike goes past your car and slips, and there's a little 2-inch scratch on your bumper, sue the parent, and they do.
Yes, and quite often win, and that's you see, the problem is right at the very beginning, you have to add another something to this that acts as a catalyst to squeeze the money out of it in all directions. Once you put solicitor/barrister in the mix, they're all expensive people to hire, and if you can hire them and sometimes get legal aid depending on your situation, well, it's gonna see its course. It's gonna get some kind of result, and the result will be the people with the biggest bank account usually wins. You know, like if you are fighting, let's say you're an ordinary bloke and you've just got an ordinary job, or maybe not a very good job, but your partner who's suing you has legal aid, which means bottomless pit of cash, who do you think's going to win? They're going to take you to court until you've got no money left, and then you're cooked. Do you know what I mean? It just seems that the system, trying to be fair, has become unfair. And I don't know what the answer to that is, really, I have to say.
Well, many years ago, we sued a garage that sold us a car that turned out to be a write-off.
Right.
And it took 2 years in total. And there were several court appearances booked, and the solicitors for the opposition said, we're not ready yet. We had to pay 70 quid for the non-appearance, even though we were appearing, and they said they couldn't. And that happened twice. The third time, which was supposed to be the final, the judge said, no, ready or not, this case is going to be heard today.
Right, good.
And we were given 2 hours to present the case. And incidentally, in the end, we won.
I would think so. But it's just, this is typical of the kind of things that I've come across, where the innocent party has to pay because the other guy cannot be bothered to get off his backside and go to court.
Right. And all right until the very end, there was a big concern. It wasn't just a one-off garage. They had a chain of garages, and they said, you know, you're wasting your time. We can afford the best solicitors and whatever, and you're going to lose. So back off. And we said, no, we're already got a car sitting in our driveway we can't use, and we've got nothing to lose.
Absolutely.
In the end, as I say, we did win, and we didn't come out big. We got all our money back, etc., but not a lot on top.
No,
and,
no, but you see, that doesn't change the fact that justice was done, thank heavens. But why didn't the judge, on seeing you there to fight the case, looking at the other side, because they could have rang in the day before and said, we're not going to send anybody, so therefore notify the other clients not to turn up. You gave your whole day up to go to court. They couldn't be bothered, and they couldn't even be bothered to ring the court to tell them. Surely they should be charged for that.
Yeah, they should, but no, we were the ones that had to pay twice. And the third time, it was a 2-hour slot that had been given to hear the case. And in a court, a 2-hour slot is really a whole morning or a whole afternoon. And as it happened, I was taken ill the day before, and I was in hospital. And the judge asked where I was, because I was the main plaintiff. And he's like to say, well, I'm sorry, he's in hospital, he's seriously ill at the moment. And she had a caring judge who actually said, don't worry, Mrs. Wilson, I'll see that your case is presented properly. And he actually told our solicitor to stop handing documents to the other side because they just weren't prepared at all. He said, you know, stop doing this. If they haven't got the relevant papers, tough.
Yeah, because this is, you see, when I mentioned that they just, if they've got a bottomless pit of cash, they will just try and wear you out until you get sick and tired. Oh, I've been going now 5 months, 7 months, 2 years. We need some more documents. We've misplaced this, and
that's right.
It's just delaying tactics because they don't want to go to court at all. And they think if they do it for long enough, you'll run out of money, run out of resolve probably as much as anything. And and therefore they win. Well, I'm so glad that you kept on at them, man.
Their final trick, when we were given rescission of contract, they then said, well, we're going to appeal against this. And our solicitors had to tell us that when it went to appeal, if the appeal judge still gave us a sort of win situation, but reduced the amount of money we would be getting,
right,
then we would actually lose the appeal.
Oh, blimey.
We'd win it in one respect.
And lose it in the other.
And we'd have to pay all the court costs, which at that time, including the appeal, was about £3,500.
Whoa. Well, you see the kind of numbers we're talking about, though, just for relatively simple stuff, you know?
Oh, yes, it was. And we had to engage then a barrister to hear the appeal, and our solicitor rang a barrister and said, will you take this case? Yes, I will. For saying yes, the barrister got £300 without ever seeing any documents. And then the day before the appeal was to be heard, the other side backed down and said, we'll pay everything. And it worked out, but if we had lost on the appeal altogether, we would have been out about £8,000.
Jeepers! You see but this is why it takes bottle for anybody to take anybody on at court, because it's not a guarantee one way or the other.
No.
But George, bless you, man. Thank you so much for calling.
Well, you take care, my man, and hey, you owe me a cuddle.
Anytime, George. Thanks for coming on, man.
Cheers, mate.
All the best. Bye-bye. Now, coming up to Halloween, you know we've got this thing on YouTube. It's going to be the Dogs Danglers, we hope. And I just thought I would ask one of Britain's leading bands whether they'd had a spooky experience. That band, Squeeze.
Yeah, I've seen a ghost.
Yeah, what on?
I had 3/4 of a bottle of whiskey, and I was reclining on my bed, and I swear the door opened, and in walked a woman with a sort of 1950s sort of look about her, with a sort of skirt on, and she came towards me at a great rate of knots, and then disappeared behind me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Difficult to tell which kind of spirits that was, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know whether it was the real spirits or
the other spirits.
Spirits, yeah.
Right. What about you? You seen anything?
Well, I think I saw Osama bin Laden once in my studio.
God, that's a great song title.
And he was making a sort of strange digging motion, going from left to right, hands down on the left and then up over his shoulder on the right. I think I was very tired. Let's put it that way.
Yes, or you should have really have perhaps reported that to the police at the time. It's one thing or the other. Cool for cats. And if you, across the week, feel that you are missing out on night owls, and I feel it, I don't know.
I am.
Land with this. Hollywood McShane does too. However, he's just sent me this. He says, don't forget to check out our free podcast, Alan Robson's Grizzly Tales, 5-star rated on iTunes.
It is. Everyone that's listened and rated us has given us 5 stars.
So if you want to go and listen, you can have a binge of episodes. There's 4 on there at the moment. And this week, I've got a Halloween-themed Grizzly Tale podcast. And it does 2 things. Teaches you how to see spirit in your own home and teaches you to tell your own future by how you carve a pumpkin. But I know the pumpkins started off like £5 ago. Now they're down to about £2 for £3.
You get loads now.
£3. I mean, the money's going right down. So when you get a fresh pumpkin, before you carve it, listen to the Halloween podcast that's out this Wednesday, because it'll tell you how you can read your future. And remember, if you've got a pumpkin, you can do two sides. So you can do you, your partner, or you and your son's future, or your daughter's future.
I'm intrigued.
By the face that you have to draw. You have to do a very specific face, but you have to listen to the podcast to find out.
You don't have to listen on iTunes. You can listen anywhere. There's Spotify, iTunes. You can listen online, on TuneIn app, everywhere. Just type the name in, Alan Robson's Grizzly Tales, and it's there.
I'm everywhere, like I'm everywhere, so make sure you do. Now, just before we go into a very, very quick break, something else I want calls on. Revenge. What have you done to be revenge about something? You buy these things, and if you don't like somebody, and you
plant them on them.
Maybe you go to the gym and they've got their clothes lying there, you can just pour the crab lace into the crotch of their underpants, and away you go. It's a horrific thing to do, I reckon.
It is and all. It says here a £34.99 pack. That's in money.
Yeah.
Includes 30 F-strain lice, which the company boasts are almost impossible to get rid of.
Oh my goodness! Hang on a second.
Hang a bit.
Leanne.
Oh, don't, man.
Leanne, you've had crabs. How did you get rid of them?
Oh.
Hang on, she's just telling me a minute. Durback soap, apparently. It works for head lice and it works down there, apparently.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, you're a horrible man at times.
This is the home of Alan Robson's Night Owls.
With the voice of the North. Greatest Hits Radio.
Pick up that telephone. So that's all you have to do. Give me a call right now on 0191 488 3188. My apologies. And a button had been pressed where I couldn't hear a thing there all of a sudden. But I think we have you back loud and clear. Talking about a few things we've covered in previous weeks. However, can you think of a worse revenge than buying a batch of crab lace to place in an offending or cheating partner's pants? Essentially, a bit scary. Now, last week, just to give you an update, we talked about some of the food items, like cock soup in Jamaica, which is very, very famous. And Linda has found on her shelf a packet of Fanny. It's Kartoffelknödel, halb und halb, half and half, 6 knödels in Cockbuten. There you go. So, it's essentially, I'm told, Germany's #1 knödel. Yeah, can't argue with that. They're potato dumplings, if you are wondering what the thing was. I will try one within the next 7 days. There you go. That is my vow. So if I'm ill next week, you will know what I've been noodled. Yeah. No, I fancy it, actually. I'll give it a go. And if ever you see anything of a peculiar name, just take a picture of it and send me the pic. That'll do. Otherwise, I'll just eat it. 0191 488 3188. Get your calls in. Now, we also, of course, have Margaret, who's in Lorraine, in France, building her dream forever home. And I've got a whole batch of photographs. The caravan looking smaller every day, but the house looking finer, and something that I'd not even thought about. You know, I think it's a lot of people's dream to buy a batch of your own land somewhere and build a house. And we were just saying at the top of the show how the number of Brits leaving for Europe is at an all-time high, 48,900 by Christmas, just this year alone. That's an awful lot. And a 25% rise. So a question for Margaret when she gets on here. Hiya, Margaret.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very, very well. Now, just want to find out, right at the very beginning, what decided you? You know, because we got all these people, these Brits leaving for Europe. What was it that, you know, you're sitting down and you're thinking, well, what we're going to do with the rest of our lives? Why did you pick where you eventually went in France? Because realistically, you'd done the Spanish thing. You'd worked in Spain for a long time. I remember you telling me. Yeah. You could have gone anywhere in Europe. Why did you think France is the one for you?
Well, we've been to France a few times, Alan, when we were in Spain. But where it's nearer to England, not quite getting to England to see family.
Right.
It's flight-wise, it's about an hour from Poitiers, an hour and 15.
Oh, that's
an hour and 15,
yeah,
half an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So we thought, I don't want to move back to England yet. There's too much going on. There's too much happening.
Yeah.
Yes, France is lovely. It's beautiful. Yes, they have got taxes to pay. You have got this, but it's an easier way of life. Honestly, Alan.
Do people bother? They're just thinking problem because you've been. How long have you been actually physically there non-stop?
Physically here non-stop since March.
Right. Okay. Wait. That's a juicy 6-7 months. So
yes,
over
nearly
that
7 months, Alan. Yeah.
Over that time. The kind of problems that we suffer in Britain, whether it's chavs on the streets breaking windows, gangs turning cars around, what are the problems of living in a place like that? Because if you think about it, it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people are going there because a lot of the bills are lower. You can buy property cheaper and what have you. Or so I hear.
Well,
so that being the case, I can see the attraction of a little bit warmer because further south you go, that's a consequence. So I can kind of see why people would want to be there, or Spain or Portugal, or it's like the warmer ones probably more so than further north, if you know what I mean. What problems do you have there then? What are the things that you grit your teeth about over there?
The only problems we've got, we're quite rural.
Right.
We've got no chavs on corners, no hoodies, no kiddies, lads on corners. No, if you want to go for a walk, you're not scared to go for a walk on your own around the village or anything. I would say the only problems we have, if you do want to go for a long walk, at the moment, you've got to wear a high-vis jacket or a vest.
What?
Because it's hunting season.
Oh, right, I see.
Right, and
so what are the hunting there that they don't hunt here? I mean, is it like deer or is it other things?
Deer, yes, deer and wild boar and we're right in the heart of all of that, Alan.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So have you seen wild boar since you got there?
No, we haven't seen a wild, but we've seen the deer. We've seen little the roars, the
little Bambi deers.
The little and they've come in at the top of the field.
Ah, lovely.
And I'm thinking, how can anybody shoot them?
There wouldn't be a Bambi film if Mum didn't have to die. That's just the way it was. It's the way it is. Scary, isn't it? Because I live on obviously Scottish borders, and it's exact.
Yeah. Oh.
And sometimes when I wake up in the morning, you'll hear in the background, and you're thinking, because in a way, this is very sad because I'm kind of pheasant or deer. You think, I hope it's a pheasant. And not that I have anything against pheasants, just deer. From my point of view, being a townie, I never saw a deer. Never saw a deer when I was living in the city. Didn't even know we had them in Britain because whenever you go in the country, it's not like they're thick under your feet, So to see one, especially with antlers and stuff, it's like makes your heart skip a beat.
Yeah, it's like here. I'm a born and bred townie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And then come in, and then you've gone from there to Spain, which is like very barren and tourism. Then here in the country, and it's hunting season. The men were out last evening on the bugles to say that hunting day was on the hunting day is mostly on a Sunday. Do you know what I mean? Hunts.
Right.
But if you want to go for a walk, you put your high-vis jacket on. But I've never seen deers. I've never seen wild boar. I've seen 3 or 4 now deer. And I'm thinking, oh my God, no, don't shoot them, please.
But you definitely don't wear that suede velvet jacket that you've got in brown.
No. Don't put your hair up and put hairspray on your hair, in plaits or something. You know what I mean? Oh my God, no.
But it's eventually you're gonna have like wild boar sniffing around your bins, aren't you? I mean, Because I was in Germany once and I saw a family of these things walk from. I was walking through like not even a forest. It would just be a few woods at the end of like a housing estate, and a mammy and a daddy pig. Because that's what they are. They are pigs. They don't look like pigs.
That's right, yeah.
But they're pigs with the long and the big tusks sticking out. So the two adults went, and then there was like 5 or 6 little squeakers, the little baby piglets, following on behind them. And the guy I was with, being in Germany, he says, "Shh, don't disturb them." And you look at them and you think, as if, like, who in their right mind? Let alone hunt them, because I mean, I would imagine they could do some damage with those tusks.
Right.
Who knows?
I would not. If they came in our garden, well, we haven't got a garden yet. It's just like a field type of thing. But I wouldn't disturb them. No. I would just think, just go ahead and do whatever.
Yeah, they might find you a truffle or two. You never know, because the pigs are supposed to be good at that.
I'll fling a few out the window for them. You do. But,
so I mean, the house looks like it's heading in the right direction. You got a roof on, you got windows in, no doors yet.
No doors yet. No. Sadly, our funds are getting really zilch.
Right.
So what we're doing is hopefully before our tiles for the roof come next Thursday.
Wow. Right.
So we'll get them on. It'll take about 10 days to do them. And then what we're thinking of is hopefully getting the outside done, more calcaire. Right. I told Nicola we shifted 20 tonne of calcaire in 3 days.
Now, what is that? Is that the stuff you put on your driveway?
It is.
Because it's the one thing that I'd never... You know, when you're building a property, and not that I ever have, but to see somebody build a property, you think, well, the house is nearly up. But you don't think, but hang on, you've got to be able to get a driveway from wherever the road is, and you can't just keep driving over the grass, because that's just minging. You've got to put some stuff down. And I looked at the stuff as it had arrived, you know, on a big sheet of plastic. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't even want to think to start humping that on wheelbarrows left and right. And then the finished job you've done has been amazing, mate, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been hard. Honestly, I've thought, and Gary's going, go on, another barrow, another barrow. I fill the barrows, he moves the barrows, and he puts it, you know.
Yeah.
So it has been hard, but you got to think of the wagons and the cars that's coming up on the grass.
No, I know.
And it's been
churning it up nasty.
Yes. So it's. I mean, now it's going to be a whole lot different now.
Right.
Which is, you know, we're not treading mud into the caravan. And
have you got enough to keep going, though? Because you were saying that you're suffering.
No, we haven't. We've got what we're doing is we've got work where Gary has, and I'm going to be his labourer because we've got our SERAT numbers through now, so we can
work. That's great.
We can work officially. Yes,
that's great.
And pay taxes. So what we're doing is we're going to make the house, put all the doors on the house because we have them inside, but we haven't put them on yet.
No,
get it all secure, get it all watertight. And start working. And then after Christmas, after New Year, when we've got a bit more money in, start putting stuff in, and then, you know, it might take another 6 months, Alan, but we're not bothered.
No, but you've got to eat and live in the meantime. That's the thing. No, I absolutely get it. You're doing it common sense way. Absolutely. Hey, well, love to you. I tell you, I just saw that load of stuff land.
Yeah,
and you don't, and presumably you've had similar deliveries of like sand and cement and all the stuff you've used for them.
And all that.
There's been a few barrows up that would be dry, but now you've got a proper drive. So and it does look beautiful. So congratulations with that. I just can't imagine the amount of sweat that you guys have put in so far.
Sweat and tears, Alan. Blood, sweat and tears.
But I tell you, it'll be worth it when it's done. Be worth it when it's done.
Oh, will be, yes.
I love to you both. Keep in touch. Thanks a lot, Margaret. All the best.
Will do, Alan. You take care. Thank you so much.
Right, bye-bye. Oh, my goodness. What can we send these people? Yes, now. Do you remember the other week we were talking about A place quite close to the hearts of those that live, particularly on Tyne side. We're talking about the cooperage, and with a bit of news, Phil's back from Monksheaton. Hi, Phil.
Oh, yeah, good evening, sir.
Hello. I think things have turned in an interesting direction.
Yes, they have, yeah. We're certainly picking up momentum. We've the campaign at present has 200 plus members, 2,000 plus members.
Right.
I've got a great coordinator team and some incredible supporters out there doing incredible stuff.
There's a feature, though, that the Chronicle put out earlier this week about Cooperage owners vow to reopen historic pub in ambitious and exciting scheme. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's difficult to sort of put it in a compressed way. There's so much about it. My first impression was it was a complete vacuous work of fantasy and smokescreen.
Right. So you're dubious about whether it has the any real firm backing. So are they just saying what people what they think people want them to say?
Yeah, it's a complete empty PR exercise. I mean, after everything they claim to have done, the fact remaining is that it wouldn't be in its current condition had any of their company's principles been adhered to. And we can see the state of the thing. There's a dated picture, anybody can access it via Google, that shows the missing downpipe over the gable end, overlooking the stairs.
Yeah.
Well, Apartment Group insist this was replaced along with other things as soon as they bought the place, which is fair enough. They wouldn't be able to run it otherwise. But they also maintain that they've carried on a policy of looking after the building ever since. Now, we all know for a fact that this downpipe had been broken for quite a while, and it was only dealt with, but not very professionally, early this year when this campaign brought it to their attention.
Right.
Now this photo showing where the rainwater had been allowed to soak into the wall was taken on the 29th of December 2011, 8 years ago.
Right.
Now that's a lot of years and a lot of rain, and that doesn't seem to me like regular maintenance,
right,
by any stretch of the imagination.
The fact that they're saying this, is there no mileage for you and they to get together and move ahead, or are you just too many poles apart?
Well, I mean, it's still at to this point. We've been just completely stonewalled.
Right.
You know, I don't think they've have any intention of letting it go, which is the worrying thing, because the longer this drags on, the worse the care of the building is going to be secondary, or possibly not even secondary, of importance to anyone.
Right.
I do have a demonstration, which is going to go ahead next Sunday.
Yes.
It'll be outside the Cooperage, 11:30 till 1 p.m.
Right.
I'd like as many people to come down and just to lend a visible show of solidarity and love for our heritage.
You see, when I see stuff in the newspapers, and I'm just going to read you a clip out of Karina Ford's piece in the Chronicle, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
It says, the firm's new chief operations officer revealed that the group owners of As You Like It, House of Smith and Floritas are working on a plan to develop the site so it can once again welcome residents and visitors. The Cooperage is without doubt one of the most charming and architecturally significant buildings in the city. We welcome this opportunity to update you on its condition. And it says they've got the apartment group has considerable experience working with listed buildings, has spent more than 10 million in recent years taking abandoned, neglected buildings and sensitively restoring them into award-winning ventures, saving buildings and creating considerable employment. All that sounds good. If you look at what they've done in recent years with neglected buildings, can't deny they have done a lot of what they're saying there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have thought you'd have read that and gone, brilliant, breakthrough. Let's get in touch with this new chief operations officer and see if there's any middle ground where we can get stuff, we can get some momentum going, maybe.
Yeah, and that's a good point. But if you look at what they've done, the issue really isn't with any of the other properties. The only issue I have
is the coverage. I get it.
In itself, and
I see where you're coming from. It's just that if you say stone wall, we're not hearing anything, nobody's saying zip, da-di-da-di-da, then all of a sudden, the Chronicle, to its credit, obviously heard what we were talking about and says, hang on, I'm going to have to try and get the other side's view on here. Fair dues. There is the other side. And I read that and I thought, well, that's got to be a step forward rather than a step back.
Yeah, it does sound positive, but there's no evidence to I mean, what are they planning? I mean, the reason, one of the other issues was the fact that it was closed down the last time round because the residents of the new apartments complained about the noise.
Right.
So what are they going to open up that isn't going to attract the ire of residents again? We saying they've got an exciting plan in the bag. It's been 10 years.
Yeah, well, let's see, for just sake of arguing, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, and they're not, bottom line is, if I owned a property and I had these really cool plans for it, and we'd bought it, nothing had been done with it, now there's a campaign to keep it going, so there's momentum and possibly, I don't know, maybe money to be had in a grant here or there, who knows. If that's the case, let's get in on that, and let's say they've just got a plan for a nice restaurant in one of the oldest buildings. It's not going to be a noise issue. It's people having nice, gentle meals and in a place loaded full of history. Schools can come and visit during the day. Then at night time, it's open as a restaurant or whatever. There are things that could be done with that amazing building to maybe make a bit of money and can keep it. And that's the important thing, isn't it? To keep it.
Yeah, it needs to be a working building. It needs to have people in it. Yeah. It needs to have some heat in it.
But why do they have to tell you? Is the question. Yeah. If you know what I mean, I'm not picking on you in any shape. You know what I mean? Why should they tell you if they've got plans?
Oh yeah, but I mean, what have they done over the last 10 years? That's the worry. If they're so concerned about keeping it for some grand plan, why have they let it go to rack and ruin? I mean, to say that in the article that the council have inspected it and it's been deemed watertight. Yeah. I mean, if that's the basis on a sole qualification for a Grade 2-star listing, I'm going to apply for a grant for my garden shed.
Right. You are the you're the absolute edge of negativity about the whole thing. And if you look at the building, I can absolutely understand why. Windows broken and damp and it's tipping to one side, and I see sadness just looking at it makes me sad. And I want to see it flourish. I just hope that whether it's with the full weight of the support that your group's got, that maybe it can be restored. If it takes a bit of a shove, if the people who are behind it now with the new chief operations officer, they're hired to operate, so let's see how they operate and hope that it's soon. I just hope that it comes off, because it's too amazing. Well, it's too amazing to fail, if you know what I mean.
I really hope that this is going to come out, but I don't want it to take another 10 years.
No, fair enough. And tell everybody where to meet for the grand day.
Okay, it'll be down the quayside outside the coverage, 11:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. And that's Sunday, November 3rd.
Lovely. Good to talk to you, Phil. All the best.
That's great. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye. And you. Now, I've got a little thing that I'm going to share with you after we take one quick break. We're going to have a chat with Alison, who's in Anfield playing. But before that, I've got a very brief top 10 that it's a top 10, it's an odd top 10. It's what critics who didn't like the music wrote about it before it was released to the public. You know, where you review new releases to see if they're any good. The critics were fierce, and you're going to hear some interesting ones, particularly a funny about what they said about the next piece of music I'm going to play for you. But a quick break first.
Call Alan Robson's Night Owls now.
0191 488 3188.
This is real-life conversation with the voice of the North.
Greatest Hits Radio.
Now I'm going to give you some clues that could win yourself a T-shirt tonight. I'm going to give you 4 clues. And the first clue is Mr. Hendricks. What was his first name? Write that down. That's your first clue and first answer. Mr. Hendricks. I'm going to give you 4 clues, and you've got to find out what links all of the answers together. Okay? The first clue, Mr. Hendricks. 3 more clues to go. Okay? And let's see how you do with that. I wish you well. Now, promised you that top 10 of critique, but not when there's a listener on the line waiting to get on. We've got Alison, who is in Anfield Plain, who's got a new business venture. Hello, Alison.
Hi there, Alan. How are you doing?
Yeah, good to talk to you. Thank you. You sent me an email in saying you wanted to come on the show. You've come up with something, frankly, that I didn't expect as a new business. Tell us all about it.
Well, it started off basically through a lot of experiences. I think I've been on quite a few times telling you about them. But it's about helping people to create a lasting impression. So it's called Leaving a Lasting Impression.
Right.
And it's made up of 3 different parts. So it's about creating your lasting impression, which you can have that part in itself, which is about collecting memories, stories about your life, but writing them down and recording them.
Right,
so
I see that.
It's kind of like taking a snapshot of your own life, because what I've found happens is everybody has their stories and everybody has their experiences that happen throughout their life. But very seldom do people write them down and kind of record them. So as family members kind of pass away and get older, those stories often get mixed up, jumbled up, and relatives can find themselves trying to think, what was that they said? What did they say about that?
Yeah.
What happened?
Uh-huh.
So I thought it was really important for people to start taking responsibility themselves to kind of create the picture of their life.
Now, the first thing that I thought of when I read what you were doing, it was kind of like, do you remember years and years ago, it probably still happens on Blue Peter, I just stopped watching it when I grew up, but on Blue Peter back in the day, they would put a capsule together where they'd put a recording of your Auntie Mary singing a tune and talking about World War II. You'd have a photo of this and something that was the hottest toy of the moment, and you'd put them all in this capsule that would open 100 years hence or whatever. It's kind of like putting together a snapshot of, because to do it properly, it would have to be everybody's life, not just the life of a particular person. It would have to be their sons, their daughters, their mothers, their aunties, their uncles. It would be everybody, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I feel it's a really personal thing.
Right.
So it's about you creating your lasting impression and taking responsibility for yourself.
Right.
So it's kind of like a memory box. So you kind of look at your life, you take responsibility for your life, but also give this gift to your children.
Right, yes.
So to talk about it to your children as well. So you can start your lasting impression from a really young age and just put little things in that are kind of important to you and that have a meaning to you, and kind of write a little story around them and put them in to that box. Because fundamentally, the box is a gift to your family and loved ones after you've gone.
No, I see this, and it's just, I think we're really bad at this kind of stuff. For example, you know, there's a few people tried to unlock the, well, you've got a phone with loads of photos on it. You do realise if you lose that phone, very few people have backed them up anyway. You know, they've just got 800 pictures of themselves, their friends, their new babies, birthday parties, christenings, weddings, and it's all on the telephone. And it drops down the sink and gets wet, and everything's lost, and it's heartbreak, and people don't even back up what they use on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, are you asking a lot here? Because it sounds so little to do something very special indeed.
It is. It can take such a small amount of time. Like, I started creating mine probably about 2 years ago. And it's kind of, I kept all my photographs on computers, on phones, on everything. And what I started doing is when something important, like kind of when I looked at a photograph and thought, oh, I love that, I would print it out. And I would print it out and I would date it on the back and I would write a little kind of message on the back about why I felt the way I did about that photograph, why it was important to me, what was happening on that day, and just what made it a little bit special. Right. So that when somebody kind of looked at that at a later life, or even yourself looking at it, like in years to come, you can kind of look at it and think, oh, that's how I felt on that day, and they are the reasons why.
Yes.
And it's kind of a tangible thing to hold rather than, because like you look through photographs on a phone, anybody could have taken them.
Sure.
And what I've found the link is for people is to think, like say, I lost my dad when I was 18. He was 44. To think that I could have something that he actually held and wrote his message on and was important to him, that's the kind of feeling that I'm trying to create through this.
I think it's lovely, but it's kind of like somebody would have to come to you and then you would create something. Is that essentially what they do? Is that how the business works?
Well, basically, I've put together a box and a list of instructions. So you get a booklet that guides you through helping you to start creating your lasting impression, because it's really individual for everybody.
Right.
And it's getting that conversation going.
Right.
So you start talking about what the things are that are important to you, what kind of things that you would like to leave to your family, because I've found that everybody's different. It's like I've got family members who they're not interested in the recording side of things. I'm very much into like telling a story and recording it. Sure. So that it's there for somebody to listen to, so they can kind of get the vibrations and hear your voice and feel connected. Because it's I think often when people lose somebody, it's that connection that they long for. Yeah. And it's not something that they want to dwell on every single day, and it's not something that they want to listen to all the time. But sometimes when we need it the most, that connection is something that's really like powerful for people.
And I agree with you. And I know people say I'm not bothered about the recording of anything. Nowadays, you could have that person, whoever it is, a mum, an auntie, an uncle, a brother, a sister, a son or a daughter, deliver that message on screen, seeing their face, letting you know how much you mean to them. I mean, that's strong stuff. And I mean, it's stronger than just a photo saying, thinking about you or whatever. Do you remember the time when? You know, it's a lovely thing. And it's for that to be part of this amalgamate that you're putting together. So you've got lots of stuff, physical stuff that you can, put your hands on that have 1,000 memories attached to them. But to finish that off with, click on here, it's your family talking about you. Blimey, that would give anybody a boost.
Yeah, well, I've done all these recordings because I felt that to kind of sell, to get this business out there and to encourage people to do it, I had to sit and do it myself. Right. So I've made recordings for literally all of my family. Right. And it's kind of, they all just start with, like, if you're listening to this, it means that I'm not here anymore.
Oh, blimey, wow. Do you not think that's real heavy? Because, I mean, first of all, we don't want to think about not being here anymore. We want to think, well, we'll always be here. before we are invulnerable.
That's a really important part about this, and it is part of like what I'm doing to start talking about death and dying because we don't.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, nobody gets out of this alive. And I know that might sound really morbid, but a lot of people rush
Happy
through their lives.
days are here again. Right.
but people rush through their lives, kind of trying to get somewhere all the time. They're busy working. They're trying to make more money. They're trying to hustle and bustle on.
Yeah.
But they don't realise that the time that they've got is actually limited. And often people, when they start talking about their own immortality and talking about death and dying, they find it quite a empowering, like, kind of moment to realise that start looking for the things that are important to you and start kind of making your life a little bit more meaningful, because we don't know what's going to happen, and one day you might turn around and you can't do the things you wanted to do, and you can't kind of have the life you wanted to have. But if we start thinking about kind of that the time that we have now is limited, it's amazing the mind shift that it can give people to kind of think, actually, I'm going to start living a more like enriched life. I'm going to start doing things that I really want to do, and I'm going to start appreciating people more and spending less time stressing and worrying about the things that aren't that important.
In the great scheme. And you know, I think you've hit on something here, you know, Alison, because I think in general, all of us seem to value a lot of the wrong things, because the most important thing is you and your family. Bottom line, you and your family, make sure you're all right, make sure that the house has got a lot of love in it and respect and all of those nice things, simple things. Can you eat? You got enough to eat? You got a roof over your head? Will you manage? Champion, crack on. Anything else we can deal with, you know, pretty much.
Yeah, we can. And people get so lost in all of the stuff that doesn't really matter. And sometimes bringing it back down to the basics of you're born, you've got a limited time, and then you die, kind of makes you realise that let's make the best of this. Let's make it something special, and let's make sure that the people that are around you kind of know how you feel and know that you do appreciate them, because there are so many people that kind of pass away and all have left family that or left thinking, what did they really think? What was it like? Why were they so unhappy? What could I have done differently? And it's all too late then.
Yeah, because again, I mentioned a while back regarding the deaths of my parents, especially with my dad. Didn't tell him that I loved him until he was seriously ill at the end. In his whole life, I'd never told him. And you think, well, why didn't you? Because he was a bloke's bloke. He wasn't, you know, like a lot of northern men are, brusque and I remember right at the very end when I told him that I loved him, he said, well, I've always loved you. And you kind of go, oh, well, why didn't you tell me? And this is what this is about.
Yeah, it is. It's about celebrating life. And I think to be able to celebrate life, we have to look at death.
Yeah. How do people get in touch? If somebody wants to get in touch and get one of your packs on how to make this happen, where do they go?
They can go to my website, which is leavingaalastingimpression.co.uk.
Leavingaalastingimpression.co.uk. All lowercase, is it?
All lowercase, yeah.
Right.
Or they could find me on Facebook.
Okay.
Which again is Leaving a Lasting Impression. That'll take you to the page.
Yeah.
And you can follow on the page, which kind of just has a few little like tips and ideas. Because part of the box is to also look at your options for your funeral and record your wishes.
Right.
And make that available for your family, because that's kind of a gift in itself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people struggle at the end and they don't know what the person would have wanted, and there's a lot of things now shifting in the kind of the funeral scene where people have been led down this path for so long by funeral directors to think that it has to be a certain way, and if it's not that way, it's not respectful, and it actually boils my blood because I think it's so.
And it's
expensive. It's just a money-making racket.
It does
people
seem
don't realise that it
but
doesn't have to be that way.
People don't realise they have the power to make it whatever way they want it to be. That's
or
the
their options.
thing. Yeah.
So on my website, I've got a page that's got on all the different options.
Right.
Because there's so many different ways you can do it. It's like direct cremations can cost £1,000.
Right.
And then you get the ashes back, and then you have a massive party. and it's kind of like, I don't see the difference of having a wake around a body or having a wake around a lovely big urn that's got the ashes in. Because once your spirit's gone, that's my belief, that like once we kind of die, our spirit goes off to wherever it goes to, and what's left is just the shell.
Right.
And funerals are kind of just a way for the people who are left to celebrate the life, say goodbye, and just kind of put a line of closure on things.
No, sounds great. Hey, lovely talking to you. Let's hope it generates a bit of interest for you. And
thank you very much, Alan.
No worries. Keep on keeping on. Good on you, Alison.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Bye-bye. How do you feel about it? Before you go, we should talk a little bit more about death. Oof. Have you all managed to tell the people that you love how much you loved them while they were alive, or is there a huge chunk in your heart where that was unfinished business that you didn't get a chance to tell?
Alan Robson's Night Owls.
The phone-in that gets you talking.
Greatest Hits Radio.
The telephone number is 0191 488 3188. Let me give you that again. We want you to give us a ring. 0191 488 3188. We particularly need help with Mark. Mark says, my second week listening in my brand new flat. Settled in nicely, but I've got a problem with my Sky connection. Hopefully one of the night owls out there can shed some light on the problem. What it is, got the satellite cable connected from the wall plate on the wall in the flat to the Sky HD box. I get a signal on some channels, but not all of them. When I get in touch with Sky, they say that's because it's a communal dish, and I need to get in touch with the landlord. When I get in touch with the landlord, all he says is, you need to get in touch with Sky. So he's just going back and forward between the two. Any idea, night owls? I'm pulling my hair out here. Can anybody help? If you're a bit of a genius, if you're a whiz with your Sky, if you've had this problem maybe yourself, solve it for us if you would be so kind. 0191 488 3188. Get your calls in quick as you can. We would love you to help us if that is humanely possible. Right, I promised you some pop music reviews. Now, these are all absolutely real. Some of the bands you will recognise, some of them you won't. The first pop review came from Noel Coward. Now, Mad Dogs and Englishmen Go Out in the Midday Sun. Yes, him. Noel Coward said about the Beatles in 1964 that they were bad-mannered little SHITSs. Bad-mannered little ones. There you go. Noel Coward. He hated them so much he made him swear. Johnny Black and Smash Hits heard Earth, Wind and Fire, their new single. Let's Groove, it was called. His entire review was, let's not. I think these are brilliant. Run to the Hills, Iron Maidens. Remember when that came out? What an album as well. And Run to the Hills. Don't think I wasn't tempted, said Smash Hits. Another song, Bell and the Devotions, had a song out called All the Way Up. And their reviewer in the Record Mirror says, don't tempt me. Also, and Still Life brought a song out called Away from This Town. The reviewer simply in the Record Mirror said, and the further the better. Bob Seger, classic rocker in America, brought out his massive hit, Like a Rock, and the review in Sound simply said, exactly, Bob, prehistoric. And I'm going to give you two more because they're my favourites. Morrissey, in Smash Hits, was asked to review that week's new releases, and one of them was Alphaville with their song Forever Young. And Morrissey, when reviewing it, said, should have been strangled at birth. But my favourite is about the song I'm going to play for you next on Greatest Hits Radio, because it was indeed a greatest hit. And this one came from Smash Hits again. And the song title, well, it was a Yellow Electric Light Orchestra. The song title was Don't Bring Me Down. And their review simply said, too late. There you go, Electric Light Orchestra. Might have been slagged off. It was a tremendous song. Don't forget, you can text the word Alan, A-L-A-N, plus your message to 61054 if you would like to. 61054. Rich in Stockton said, Alan, with all the court cases about Brexit, if the Lib Dems won the election and cancelled it, what would happen if people took them to court? Says Rick in Stockton. Well, he's on the line, so let us find out and give him the answer. It's a bit of a faff if he's not on the other end, if you know what I mean. Hi, Rick.
Hello there. That was quick.
Hello there. Tell you, we are. So, bottom line with this is you got to remember the whole Brexit thing's been going forever. I seem to remember the beginning of the world it started, and it's still going, or it just feels that way. A lot of people are getting well chewed with the whole damn thing, especially now that Europe apparently have come back and said Boris Johnson's deal is just Theresa May's deal in new packaging. And you know how many times did she try to pass it? Like 4 times, and they voted against her every time. So just because Boris has got his name on it, will they pass it now? It just seems unlikely, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Lib Dems want to stay in. If they now, this is the weird thing. You got to remember, first of all, that the referendum was. It was only David Cameron who said he would stick to it. Everybody else didn't have to if they didn't want to, because it wasn't legally enforceable. It was he said that he would, and everybody else on the back of that said, oh, well, I'll have to do that as well. None of them have to. If they decided against it, they could just shrug their shoulders and just walk away and tell the Europeans, well, we're staying in after all, and get on with it. They could do that.
Yeah, what I was getting at, a lot of people have, it's been like court cases about different things to do with it, forcing the government to do this. I mean, I was the same as you with the referendum either way. I didn't vote, same as you.
Right.
But how it all was where they were, being taken up to court over different things to do with it. And what I was getting at was I think it was, I'm going by what I've heard on the news in the 2017 election where Labour and the Tories stood in the manifesto they would honour the referendum result, and see it through sort of thing. Yeah. That's what I was getting at. And then all of a sudden, if there's a new election, just say if the Lib Dems got in, I mean, to be honest, I doubt we'll form the next government with a majority, to be honest with you.
It would be a long shot, but you see, now Labour said they want to stay in. So if they went to the country, and between the Lib Dems and Labour, they had enough people voting for it, and let's just say 5% more than the government, they could then outvote the government and choose to stay in if they teamed up as a coalition, because they want to stay in, and if there's enough people want to stay in, we'll stay in.
Yeah. So what if if that was the case? Again, what's to stop, perhaps thousands and thousands of people taking the Labour Liberal Democrat government to court saying, right, I want to reimburse them for all the money what I've spent getting ready for Brexit.
Well, you could certainly argue that. And, I mean, will that give those people their jobs back, who've lost their jobs on the back of... The thing is, it was not the fault of the Lib Dems or Labour or any of the other independent parties, the Brexit thing. This was the Tories saying, we'll stick by it. They have continued to say, we're going to stick by it, even though Theresa May went halfway saying, we'll do it the hokey-cokey way, we'll do it 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That's what, and essentially, Boris has kind of gone down the same road, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but make it sound like we've left. It's the same deal, pretty much. But if somebody goes to the Lib Dems and says, we've voted in a referendum to come out, and they'll say, the referendum here was not legally enforceable. The people that set the referendum were the Tories. We're not the Tories. Right from the very beginning, we've said we want to stay in. Boom.
Yeah, well,
they can't sue them for that, for sticking to what they've said right from the very beginning. Labour would probably be on a slightly stickier wicket because we've never really known whether they were in or whether they were out because they kind of waited to see how the land lay, if you know what I mean. Now they've seen the...
Sorry, they seem to be coming down on both sides. Even now, I mean, some of their MPs are still saying, especially the ones in the northern seats, to be honest, I think they're a bit worried about losing the seat.
I think so too, yes.
Like where they were like, well, they were quite heavily voted leave, didn't they?
Yes.
And I think it's a case of, although they're saying like a lot of people have changed their mind now, maybe some have, but I think in some of the where they were heavily leave, I don't think that many have changed their mind. The fact that Labour could safely keep his seat if he goes against it, sort of thing. Yeah. And I think that's why they're a bit like still on the fence. I mean, like Jeremy Corbyn, when I've seen him interviewed, he still won't like be adamant about one side or the other. I know they've come out saying, "Oh yeah, we want to leave and all that, and this, that, and the other, and that," but he still seems to be leaving it open as if like you can interpret it the other way. He's not like Farage, we leave and sort of thing,
I absolutely agree with you. The only person in the whole Labour Party that there seems to be a little bit of, is it raining today? Oh, I'm out then. I'm out. No, it's sunny. I'm in. I mean, the only... Do you remember those little things you used to buy when you were a kid? You might never have seen these things, but they were on the wall, and if the woman came out the door, it was going to rain, and if the man came out the door, it was going to be sunny. Do you remember those?
Yeah, usually on a little clock, weren't they?
Exactly. I thought I was the only person in the world to know of them. Thank
no,
heavens.
We had one.
There you go. But he's the only one that seems to be a little bit like that, because if you talk to the vast majority of the Labour people, they're all saying loud and clear, no, we are a party that wish to remain. And so you go, oh, well, hang on. I seem to remember round about the time, that Brexit was actually voted for, there was an awful lot of Labour voices saying leave, 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 leave. So, but they've ended up in this other place. Whatever road they've took has led them to where they want to be, in opposition to the Tories, as I suppose they're supposed to be. But it's interesting because what you've got to think about here is, let's say there was a general election and attached to it, because that's what they're trying to do here, all of them, they're trying to attach to it a referendum revote. Do you want to stay in, or do you want a no deal Brexit? Now the answer to that, I think, is fairly clear. I think the vast majority of people want a deal. We want to know we can actually work and make a bit of money from Europe, even if it's not the amount that we used to do back in the day. We want to be able to buy stuff there and have a decent relationship. However, if it comes down to, because you go on these referendum forms, you're not allowed, and I don't know who makes this rule up, but you're not allowed 3 things to vote for. You can only vote you can only vote for 2 things. Now, for me, I would say, who made that rule? Sack 'em. We can vote for as many things as we want to, because this is too important. So if you wanted to put no deal Brexit only if we have a deal, any kind of deal, no deal, stay in. There's 1,000 varieties you could maybe put on there. I think you should pick maybe the 4 or 5 best and let the public have a say.
So is that right? They're only allowed two items on a referendum then?
Two on a referendum. You in or out, up or down, left or right. It's
the politicians who were saying, well, why not have three on it? And then they're obviously saying that for sort of like some...
You probably, presumably people in the House of Lords, no. Three things, what? Yeah, I just get the impression that this is probably something from 1744 that nobody's challenged, because I don't. It's more complicated than in and out now. Do you know what I mean? I think
it's a lot more, yeah. And another thing as well. Speaking of Jeremy Corbyn, he's. I mean, I'm no Boris Johnson fan, but like when he said something like. I think Jeremy Corbyn must be the first opposition leader not to want a general election. Why doesn't he want one, especially if the Brexit date is set in law sort of thing, like that Boris Johnson can't legally do anything and the election's there. And he's still saying, like, I don't want one, and he's making, like, other little excuses now. I mean, does he really think he might lose or something? Or what's the reason behind that?
Long story short, they want a general election, but when it suits them, not when it suits Boris. Boris thinks that if he says he's going to have a general election, that everybody will say, well, OK, let's get out and then we'll have a general election. Oh, well, Jeremy Corbyn wants, if you're going to have a general election, to have a referendum with it so that you get it all out the way, so whoever's in after has a clear road. They don't have all this faff and this mess. So you get an answer, you know where you are, move forward. That's essentially what he wants, I think. I'm guessing. I haven't had a conversation with him, man.
No, but in an interview I saw him doing. I mean, this was about he might have changed his mind, but it was about a week ago. He said he wants to win a general election and he wants to go across to Europe and renegotiate and put his deal to the people. But then, of course, he said, but then we want to vote for Remain, like vote against his own deal, and they got ridiculed for that. And then I think it was at Emily Thornberry, they got ridiculed for it, and then he's sort of like gone quiet on that now.
Yeah, because what he said was he wants to go across and renegotiate, but what I thought he meant by that was not necessarily renegotiate Brexit, but renegotiate the deal they have in Europe. Now, if the Tories had done that at the beginning and said, look, we want better control over our borders, which actually we've already got, but it doesn't sound like it. We want better deals on the borders, and we're going to stop people coming in here willy-nilly unless they're good for the country, and we want to pay less money into Europe. Let's just say they went for those three. They probably would have got away with that, and Britain might be a better place, because who knows? But they might have done, but nobody ever tried. Instead, they just said, no, we're leaving. Now, if you're leaving, it's like, if you're going to have a divorce, you don't just go, I'm leaving. You have a few months of saying, now, I'd love to stay, but I'm not happy with your behaviour, and you called me this, and that's not a nice word. And, you try and see if there's and I tell you what I'll do is, I'll do this, and you do that, and maybe we can work this out. There was none of that. It was just, made a decision, public have spoken, out. And, if that's what David Cameron wanted. This is the strange thing, because an awful lot of the people who are leavers, people who want out, are supporting the Tories in the North East. I never thought I would see a day where so many people came out and they wanted to do what the Tories wanted them to do. I find that incredible.
I know.
Me dad and me granddad's probably still spinning in their graves, because they were the Daily Mirror red. They was keep the red flag flying there and all that kind of stuff. But
I can't understand that across the North East. I mean, it's always been Labour up this area more or less. And it's like, for it to be going like with the Tories. I mean, even like the Euro elections. I know they're not that important, but it was like a mini referendum, wasn't it? And I mean, look at Farage, he walked it, and apparently he's got the biggest single summit in Europe at the minute. His biggest group or summit he's got in Europe now because of how many he's got. I mean, I didn't think he would have got all them.
Right.
You know, and he got that lot, and another thing what I wanted to say as well, which I just read about today actually, which I think is absolutely terrible.
Right.
You might have heard about that girl Gina Miller.
Gina Miller.
You know, the one that took the government to court?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I don't know whether you've read it. I've read it on several reputable sites, like newspaper sites and news sites from the TV and that.
Yeah.
Although I haven't seen it on the telly, but apparently the police are investigating claims people have tried to hire a hitman to kill her.
I've heard this too, yes. She's an activist to start with, but what you don't do is go and hire a hitman.
It's not a joke, honestly.
No, I know it's not. It's absolutely true. I mean, you may have disagreements with people in politics, and let's face it, the whole world has, you know. Let's face it, I would imagine Boris has had a few people who are not very keen on their policies or what they think about. Gina Miller is massive in the kind of like anti-Brexit campaigning groups, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she is, yeah, very, very much so. You know, she's, taking the government to court and all that. She put her head above the parapet sort of thing and made a lot of enemies. I mean, she's got a lot of supporters. Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm indifferent, but even if I didn't like her sort of thing, I wouldn't have the cake going on like that. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
But this is how it's got to where it is, because the Archbishop of Canterbury today, and I tell you, I can't remember the last time I agreed with anything that the Archbishop of Canterbury ever said. But he said today he thinks that Boris Johnson's pouring petrol on the division in British society, and said any sane member of Parliament would want the country to be united. And I do. I want the country to be united because we're only strong when we're together. And that's probably the reason that I would ideally like the Scots not to leave. You know, but then again, that's kind of dependent on Brexit. Will the Irish leave? Well, that's dependent on Brexit.
Yeah. Well, like, again, with Boris Johnson, I mean, you know what he said about, I don't know how to word it, I'll just say like the letterboxes and yes. Watermelons. I mean, if you, just for the sake of it, if you started saying things like that on air, you would get into trouble, wouldn't you, for something like that?
Absolutely. But
nothing happened to him.
No, but in fact, he's the Prime Minister, and therefore he gets he's looked across the sea and seen how much Donald's getting away with, and maybe thinking, well, I can say what I like too, which is why he's ended up in court a few times, and then gets out of court, loses, and then says, but I was doing the right thing. No, you were breaking the law, and that's why you didn't get away with it. But, I mean, for anybody, and this is irrespective whether you're a Brexiteer or whether you're a Remainer, to say we're going to rape you, we're going to murder you, we're going to cut your head off, and that's just not acceptable. And they should find out who said those things, because let's face it, most of them are these keyboard warriors, you know, that you're never going to see the light of day. But we'll write filth about somebody. They want to track them down and give them 6 months in prison, because that would tell the rest of the world, don't do this kind of thing. You can't say that kind of thing when a Labour MP was murdered just up the road, if you remember. You know, you cannot let this kind of thing go.
Just say one last little thing, just because I know I'll talk all night. It's been a few weeks since I've been on. I said I'd give you a rest, but no, what it was. Sometimes I say we haven't got the resources. People writing things online, we can't find them and all that. But I'll tell you a story. I think it was about maybe 10 years ago, and it was actually on BBC News. There was 2 kids in a computer lab at school, like a comprehensive school. They're about 14-year-old kids. Yeah. And they sent a message to the White House saying we're going to come and shoot the president. And within 15 minutes, the British Secret Service were at that school, at the computer where they'd wrote it, and found out how the 2 lads was. The American security services had got in touch with our services and said, sent that to our president. And it took them within 15 minutes to send in the message, and they found the 2 lads, and they got a hell of a telling off for it.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Absolutely. Do you know, have you ever seen a film called, Will Smith, Enemy of the State?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of it. Yeah, I know the one you mean. Yeah, it's
Watch it all though, because right at the very beginning, it's like we can read your number plate from a satellite in the sky.
That's right. Yeah,
we can follow your car across the city. We can see what shops you go into. We can follow you down a motorway when you're pedaling a bike from space. Now, I think they are capable of doing a lot of these things, and I tell you, al-Baghdadi of ISIS didn't think they had that kind of technology, and he's in bits now. So I think they do have a technology that they can use when it suits them. They just don't use it for the ordinary person.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I know that you don't know everything what goes on, but them satellites and stuff like that, where they can see the name on a fag packet from space, sort of thing. Yeah. I reckon they could attach a laser to that, and they could focus in on somebody they didn't like and just shoot them with a laser from space.
Yeah, it would be like a streak of lightning. Was that lightning?
And it was just lightning that killed him. It wasn't a laser. It must have been a freak lightning storm.
I'm going to have to start wearing that silver paper on my head like I used to. Hey, lovely stuff, Rick. Thank you for coming on, man. Superstar.
Always a pleasure. I'll be back again, Alan. Take care.
Look forward to it. Take it easy. Bye-bye. Bit of music, and then I think we shall have some blah. Night Owls, whatever you want to talk about, text Alan plus your message 61054. And just before this, I'm going to read this message that's coming from Anonymous. Talking about getting messages from your family about how they feel about you. This is, not what we'd expect. When my mother-in-law was dying of cancer, my wife spent 4 weeks at her house looking after her. She cleaned her when she was bedbound and sorted all of her last wishes out, sorted out her finances, sorted out her funeral arrangements so that her last days would be peaceful and stress-free as possible. My wife never had a good relationship with her mother and always felt third best child and unloved. Her mother told her there was a special letter for her to read after she passed, explaining her feelings. And after she died, my wife was given the letter, telling her that her mother hadn't wanted a third child, but was prevented from having an abortion by her husband. She went on to say how having my wife had spoiled her life and wished that she hadn't been born. I wished that I'd told her mother what an evil old bitch she was before she passed. Some messages are best left beyond the grave. Night Owls. What stories we get.
Greatest Hits Radio.
This is the home of Alan Robson's Night Owls.
With the voice of the North. Greatest Hits Radio.
1,000 things, 1,000 opinions, and we need your help in so many ways. Now, here's the thing. I got Teresa. She's got a flat. Problem is the gas and electric. She's rang the company that own both meters, and both meters are in her flat for there and next door. And they say they're both in debt, but she's just got the property. So she said to them, the debt isn't mine. Tried to explain I've just moved in, but she's not getting anywhere. All she wants to do is get the debt cleared so she can start fresh. She didn't generate any of the debt. She just moved into a property that had debt already on the meter. How'd you clear it? Teresa would like to know if anybody's got any kind of ideas. You can call me or you can text. But now, after I give you second clue, oh yeah, we want something that links 4 answers together. The first clue is Mr. Hendricks. What was his first name? Write that down. Mr. Hendricks. Second clue, abortion. Most civilized nations say it's the woman's right to what? Okay? It's a woman's right to, rhymes with booze, okay? It's a woman's right to, so that's 2 clues down. We're a bit late, but let's have the blah. Daily Mirror. Colleen Nolan, I've had a tough year, now I'm ready to go it alone. And the law and order scandal in the Daily Mirror is 600 police stations axed. Crime soars as some forces axe half their sites under Tory austerity rules. All these things that you and I have talked about over the weeks and months about, wouldn't it be great if the government put its eye back on the ball instead of just worrying about one thing? The Guardian. The Brexit blueprint is unworkable, says Barnier. There's a lot going on, and we're going to talk about it. Don't forget, if there's anything we talk about that you would like to talk about, we would love to hear from you. Simple as. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. Let's have a look at some more of the stories from the headlines of the newspapers you're going to have delivered through your letterbox in the morning. Starting off with the Daily Express. ISIS chief died like a coward after the US forces raid on al-Baghdadi, Trump says. The monster flees, taking 3 of his own children, and then he blows them up with his suicide vest. So he killed the children too, blimey. A scummy act right to the very end. Daily Star police farce shocker. You know, we had the other story about the police stations. Thin-skinned blue line. Flakes can dodge sweary training sessions. If somebody wants to become a police officer and people start swearing, they get a strop on, they can walk. What are they going to do if you kind of deal with that in a police station to when they're out trying to arrest somebody at 2:30 in the morning coming out of a club? Can you imagine?
I know.
Unbelievable. Also, the Daily Mail, NHS chiefs blast a dangerous homeopathy. Have you had any homeopathy?
So they stick pins in you?
No, no.
Is that acupuncture?
No, that's acupuncture. And that cures you of everything except the fear of needles. Do you know that?
Really?
Apparently.
They're only tiny as well.
Just one tiny little prick, but let's move on quickly. We have the Times. ISIS leader died like a dog in an American raid. And it's funny because he started off with a black beard, al-Baghdadi. He's now got a grey and ginger beard. I don't know whether you noticed the difference. Well, he hasn't now. It's probably lying on the floor somewhere.
I didn't know you could become ginger.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
People with dark hair, sometimes when they get older, they go a bit ginge.
Yeah, my friend's grown a beard, and it's all different colours all over. And he's got like dark black hair.
Is that just different dinners?
It's great.
Does he eat a lot of curry?
Do you get women in that to your salon that, you know, get ginger hair a bit later on? Well, yeah, you've probably got a few with beards, haven't you?
No, but I mean, it's like people with cancer though. When their hair grows back, it can grow back different colours. Like,
it can. That's true.
My auntie's grew back all like it was all. She looked like a tabby cat, you know, when they're all like all different colours.
Oh. Well, the weird thing was a friend of mine suffered from cancer of the prostate, and he had to get chemo, and his hair was grey, almost white when he lost it all, and it grew back black.
Wow.
I mean, black.
And it's like a different texture as well.
Yeah.
His was like soft and like fluffy. Whereas before it was just like normal.
I hope this was on his head.
Right.
Let's see what else has been happening. I'm not sure it was now, I've asked her. Daily Mirror. Donald Trump trade deal fears. Don't trust Johnson on the National Health Service. A poll reveals the majority believe the lying Prime Minister will sell off health services in a US pact. Seems America want our NHS. The Guardian. The EU is ready to give the UK a 3-month Brexit extension, a leak reveals. Well, that's what he asked for.
We all knew that anyway, didn't we?
Well,
kind of
4 days till it was supposed to be one thing or the other. So
what a joke, eh?
It is not. It's not really good news, is it? Also, the Daily Telegraph: Lib Dems offer the Prime Minister a route to an election. In other words, do what we want and we might support you. Metro newspaper: he died like a dog. And bring on the box for the rugby. Financial Times: Barclay twins cash injections into struggling empire set to hit 500 million. And the Information newspaper: December election looms as Johnson hints at a deal. But the interesting thing is, he's hinted at a deal, but Europe have gone, this is Theresa May's deal. How is this different? Please explain. And you can imagine Boris going,
yep.
Because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's probably what he said. Nicola, what's your story for tonight? Yeah.
So it's quite Americanized over in the UK now, isn't it? With like Halloween, have the exaggerated stuff and gender reveals and things like that. So,
right. You're not going to reveal, are you?
No.
What?
But a mother's been branded gross because she announced that she was pregnant she's made a cake at this party and put the little stick that you've got to weigh on
the pregnancy thing.
The pregnancy stick. So she's actually put that on the cake.
Oh.
I mean,
you wouldn't want a slice of that, would you?
So she's tried to justify.
I think husband's already had a slice of that.
She's trying to justify it by saying she put the lid back on. Everyone's like, "Oh, you've weighed on it. You've touched it's on the cake.
But it's close
it's
to
just hygiene."
yeah.
I mean, I don't even take food in the bathroom, like at all. Do you know? Like, why would
I'm
you?
not. I've never eaten in the bathroom.
Take food in the bathroom.
I don't eat in the bathroom either. To be fair.
No, but do you know what I mean? Like, you just.
I was just eating a bit of cake off the toilet seat only yesterday.
But
no.
Why would you weigh on your stick and
I wouldn't
put
even
it
take a
on
cup
your
of
cake?
tea.
Why
in
would
the bathroom?
Here's the
Turn
question.
out like you're pregnant.
Here's the question of the night owls. Why would you weigh on your stick? There's a question. Why would you weigh on your stick? Then put it on a cake. No, you just wouldn't.
Does anyone eat in the bathroom or take cups of teas in?
What strange
No,
things do we do?
I tell you, I was halfway through a cookie once.
In the bathroom?
No, but on the way to the bathroom, and I was running the bath, and somebody handed me a cookie. I can't remember what the situation was, but I found myself in the bath, with a biscuit, like half a biscuit, and I thought, just wrong.
Crumbs will go in
Crumbs
the
in the
bath.
bath, and absolute all of that, because you kind of dip it in or anything.
Yeah, well, yeah. True.
I just think, does anybody else really eat in the bath? There you go.
I know people watch telly in the bath because they've got them posh bathrooms with the screens at the bottom
I
now.
might have the odd drink or something now and then.
Right.
A glass of wine.
There you go. Andrew Lowther says, have you stopped taking calls? Nobody's answering. I know, because they're in here doing the blah, and we do the blah for 10 minutes of a night time, but we'll definitely take a call from you, Andrew. Don't you worry about that. And finally, Hollywood McShane, what's your thing?
I had two here, so I couldn't choose, but I'll do the hiccupy one.
Go on in.
Have you had hiccups for a long time before? I think I've had them for about an hour or two.
Oh,
you know,
really?
after a few drinks.
Right.
Well, this mother's had hiccups for 12 years.
Oh,
she got them while she was pregnant, and she hasn't got rid of them. She says she erupts like a loud noise, and she compares it to, you know, when you stand on a dog and it yelps.
Oh, like for 12 years though. Like
12 years
that
as well.
That would hurt, wouldn't it?
But, I mean, it hurts after an hour, so imagine 12 years
I mean,
with
I
that.
sneeze every day, as in like, and that gets on my nerves. But hiccups for 12
I've never seen you
years.
sneeze tonight.
No, like it's either first thing in the morning or like late at night. It's just strange. I don't know.
People's habits.
But like hiccups.
I was going to do this one about the salon because a salon in London's offering silent appointments for people who don't like to talk when you go in. So basically, you book it.
Yeah.
You don't want any small talk when you can pre-book it. I think that's a good idea because you've got a salon.
I mean, yeah, we were talking about this before. I had a lady sitting, and I was doing her hair, and the appointment was 2.5 hours long, and I hadn't realised she had headphones in, and I'm talking away like, oh, so what you doing at the weekend? She's just totally ignoring us, and then she like took her headphone out and went, sorry, what? And then put it back in. I was like, oh, all right. Started watching the telly on our phone. I thought, oh, well.
So some people just want to chill when they're there, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's probably.
Do you know what the answer is? Shut up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For 2.5 hours.
Cheapest, I know.
I know.
Well, that is it. That's loosely what we describe as the blah. We hope you've enjoyed it. Now let's get back to the calls. 0191 488 3188. Immediately after this.
Night Owls with Alan Robson.
You never know who's going to call next.
Greatest Hits Radio.
That is an absolute fact, and let's hope it's you. 0191 488 3188. Tim's been on, you know, about the hair colour, about beards and things. He says, Alan, I have brown hair, but when I've got a bit of stubble, it's ginger. Strange. Definitely freakish, Tim. You obviously had a dalliance with a ginge in a previous life. That's what's going on there, oh yes. And Anne's been on about bad reception with your Sky stuff. I just caught the end about that. Don't know what reception he was on about, but my telly was pixelated and impossible to watch. And the problem was a mobile telephone mast about 12 metres away. I had to get a gadget to fix on the back of my TV. Easy to fix, and they send it to you free. Your local television engineer will know where to ask. I hope it's that easy for you. Good. Anyway, let's crack on. We have, Andrew was desperate to get on. Here he is in Spennymoor. Hello, Andrew.
They all know me.
Okay, good. So
Right, Alan.
what can we do for you?
Right, I'm utterly disgusted at the passport office.
Why?
A member of staff there, when you're sending your photographs in your kids, he was chopping the faces off and putting them on women's bodies and putting them on his computer.
Oh, blimey.
I think it's actually disgusting. He got caught doing it, so I know it was in the newspapers.
Yeah.
But I'm actually disgusted with it. It's classed as paedophilia.
It's sick. I can't understand why anybody in a job like that would do it.
In my book, it makes you wonder who the hell the government's got them working for them.
It begs an awful lot of questions.
It does.
And also, what are the people around him doing while he's doing this? Surely they must know what he was doing.
Yeah, because you send your photographs in, signed, sealed and delivered, and it's supposed to be...
Well, it's supposed to be discreet, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Now, on another one,
I
went into Newcastle the other night.
Right.
About Metro Arena.
Yes.
Right. We were waiting for somebody to give them a lift back home.
Right.
And I've never ever seen so much carnage of people with cars waiting to pick people up.
Yeah.
A woman reversed into the side of a wagon.
Bloody lucky it wasn't you.
It was one of them nights. Cold. Well, I'll tell you what, you have some fun on down there, I know that.
It's just every time, because I know people that have been to a gig at the arena. It's the Utilita Arena at the present moment. It's not the Metro Arena anymore. The arena, though, has a car park set in such a way that if 100 or odd people get there ahead of you to your car, you're going to be sitting in your car a while before you get out of there, because everybody comes to pick up their friends and their family. And then there's all the taxis that people call, and you kind of get out the road. The road's just jammed solid. So I hope you got away fairly early.
I think it was about 11:30.
Well, yeah, that's
when they did whatever in Utility Hall, the Smother support bands come outside and they started under the bridge singing. So
right?
Nobody could get away.
That's clever, mate. That is clever for them to steal a bit of publicity.
Outside. He got paid inside, but he done it for nothing outside.
Yeah, to get a bit of extra publicity, I think it's quite clever, but it probably caused carnage to you lot, Sarah.
I know the police was down that way.
Right.
I don't know why. But at the end of the day, what a nightmare. Going to smash your car up. Let's have a look at a wagon that's parked behind you.
Oh, nightmare. I tell you, especially if you've had a really good night and you're thinking, nothing can go wrong now. Oh, well, be surprised. Happy to... Hey, I'm sorry to hear about that whole passport thing. It was just out of order, Andrew. You're quite right.
Out of order. I haven't heard anything on the radio, but it is in the newspaper.
No, it is absolutely. Yes,
actually disgusting.
Yeah, no, and
I'll pick you on something else as well.
Yeah, okay.
I know you've had on about migrants who died in the wagon.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm actually disgusted with it, but I'm looking at something else.
Mm-hmm.
They've had to pay a fortune.
Yes.
To whoever abroad.
Yes.
It won't be cheap.
No, it's a life savings we're talking about here. And also what we're hearing is that in some cases there were young women that they think were being sold into sex slavery, maybe.
There was 3 wagons left China.
Yes.
Now, he went to 3 different locations.
Mm-hmm.
It's pathetic.
Yeah.
I know one country stopped giving them benefits. Now we've started moving out of Turkey.
Right.
But now we're going to have to do something here because at the end of the day, everybody's getting the benefits as soon as they come in. They're getting a house, they're getting everything.
Well, mind you, that has changed, mine, Andrew, because now you've got to work in Britain for
They've only sending
6 months.
5% of the people back.
But I mean, in fairness, if they sorted out their borders properly, they wouldn't get in the first place unless they could benefit the country. And I think that's the way that it's going to have to go sooner or later down the road. But I mean, I heard that there was an entire village in Vietnam that's lost their youngsters. No, this is back of the wagon. They're claiming that it's Vietnam that a lot of them have come from, and they've named some of the girls that were supposed to be in the back of the wagon, and a young man, 24. It's just what a waste and what a horror.
It's a waste. It's shocking.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's saying that we're going to take all scanners off the ports to save money.
Right. Oh, bloody.
Now, that was in the newspaper as well.
And that's probably the reason why so many were able to get in. Because I always thought, well, they automatically went through like an X-ray. So if there were people there, they'd be seen.
You can tell by when so many people's been breathing.
Yeah.
In the back of a wagon, they can pick that up for condensation.
Yeah. Well, not in this case.
In reality, UVL puts people in a freezer.
Absolutely.
And that's what it makes me ill.
Nah, sick. There's a sickness about, isn't there?
Yeah, I know that. I know.
Oh, my goodness. But, Andrew, thank you very much for
Hey,
calling.
Alan, it's been a lovely night.
Bless
you
you.
have a lovely one.
Oh, well, indeed. Thanks, Andrew. All the best. We've got Jean on the way too. But just before that, Erasure. I asked them what was the best and the worst about their entire career. A bit of a tough question, really.
My highlights, I don't know, was probably playing, it's going to sound a bit farty, but playing at the Prince's Trust and being ignored by Diana, which I didn't mind at all. You know, I loved her. Even just seeing her face, I loved it.
Why did she ignore you then?
Well, because I didn't have a tuxedo on, you see. I only had my jeans on and my jean jacket. And I was in the line, so she just walked right by me. She probably thought I was
too
a
sexy.
punter or something.
Too sexy to go there.
Yeah. And then the lowest point, I don't know really. I think probably when Vince and I had a binge or something, a really naughty binge in Amsterdam, and had to get somebody to fly over and change the combination on the lock on the safe.
Okay, 3 clues I'm going to give you now for our competition. Getting ready for that. First clue, Mr. Hendricks. What is his first name? Write it down. Second clue, abortion. Most nations say it's the women's right to what? Rhymes with booze. Third clue, what Columbo wears, even if it's not raining. Okay, what Columbo wears, even if it's not raining. Okay, 3 clues down, 1 more clue to come, and then I'll tell you what we're looking for. We'll see how clever you are. Okay, bonne chance. Let's see how we do. Right. 3 clues down, 1 more to come. If you're a genius, you'll already have it, but don't ring in until you hear the 4th clue. Just had Erasure there singing, Give a Little Respect to who, maybe? Could be Jean! Hello, Jean! Hello, Jean! Hello, Jean! Not a hint of Jean there. Hello, Jean! No sign of Jean whatsoever. Oh, hang on. I see what's happened. She's gone to I still can't hear her. No, she's not there. Hello, Jean. Blame me. I think we're going to have to go to another call unless we can. But she's definitely not picking her up at all. Hello, Jean. Oh, hang on a second. I'm hearing a little something.
I'm here.
No,
I'm here, man.
Hang on. Let's just try it one more time. I'll boost the volume right up. Hello. Jean, are you in a warehouse?
No, I'm here.
Are you?
Yes.
What, right here with me?
I'm in the bed.
You're in. Oh, hang on. I'll put my hand over my eyes.
Oh, man, I'm stupid.
Okay. Well, hey, I don't want to say anything. You know,
Oh, man,
in case anything pops out, I just want to. I want to be discreet.
I know.
I'm a gentleman. I'd look away, Jean. I would look away.
Shut up, man.
I would. So how are you?
I'm not bad. I'm on a dizzy spell last night. I took a tablet, and I'm dizzy spell when I get.
Your Dickie's better.
I'm dizzy.
Your dizzy's better. You're not.
No, dizzy spell. I took a dizzy spell, man.
Oh, you had a dizzy spell, but you're not dizzy anymore.
Well, I took a tablet for it.
Oh, did you?
I got some tablets for it.
Right, for being dizzy.
Make it bad. It's me. It's me.
Oh, it's your in the ear. Oh, I know. That makes you fall over a lot. Because I mean, Nicola next door, she falls over a lot, but it's vodka with her.
Poor Nicola, putting people in bits. And you, and up on YouTube.
What?
That YouTube, the haunty thing.
What?
Then the haunty things.
The haunty thing?
No, the Grizzly Tales.
Yes.
That's on YouTube. I haven't got it. And I haven't got a podcast either.
Oh, you can get it on your phone, you know.
Not phone, this one.
Yeah.
I haven't got a computer.
You haven't got a computer on your phone?
No.
I thought everybody had those kind of things.
No. You know what? You do that. You said on really, there's some ghost stories on really. It's on Channel 5 at 9 o'clock.
Right.
The ghosts from America. In America, they are.
Right.
We put on there.
I'm just wondering, if you've got a friend that's got a computer, you could ask her around and have an evening in and watch the show.
Well, Linda's got one and my daughter's got one.
Well, there you go, you see. So the
But you gotta tell me just this. Tell me just because I record.
So if they're not going to be around at 10 o'clock on Thursday, you could watch it the next day maybe. It's going to be available all the time after that, so you can, at a time to suit you, you'll be able to see.
Really got ghost stories on. Really are.
Right, well, the podcasts, some of them are like crime stories.
No, not a ghost story, man. They go and investigate, the ghost investigators.
Yeah,
They got
right.
sources, man, go to buildings.
Right, well, that's what we're doing on Thursday night.
know.
We're going to do a thingy thing.
We're not able to see it, will I? No, not
Well,
yet.
you will be able to see it if you get your family there.
I'm not putting up in Stanley Lane, man.
Well, okay. Well, that's obviously a million miles away, and transport doesn't exist.
I know that.
So I don't know what you're going to do. But next time you see them, ask them to come along and make them a
that's
cup of coffee
perfect,
and ask them to put it on for you. There you go.
I'm going to maybe go to the party up at Bursters.
Right,
I think taxi man. What's going on?
Ted.
Ted the taxi man.
Ted's
right?
going to do that.
I've got my phone.
Right.
Are you maybe popping in?
I'm hoping to. I've got a gig that afternoon, and the only problem with that is I don't know how long that's going to take me because I'm booked for a couple of hours.
Well, you got me.
It's in Middlesbrough, so it's a fair way away, but
I've been in Middlesbrough,
right. But hopefully I'll be, because I've got to travel up kind of, well, not past it, but in that direction to get home anyway. So I thought
it's dark up there, and all
could
that.
drop in. Well, it's dark everywhere this time of year,
I
isn't
know,
it?
but it's dark. I know it's a country place, isn't it?
Right.
No lights there.
Right.
Yeah,
But we all look better under no lights, don't we? That's the thing.
Oh, no.
That's
So you might. How's your goat getting along? You've mentioned a goat before.
Me goat.
Your goat, how's it getting on?
How's me goat going
You
on?
said about a goat.
Yeah, well, yes.
You got a goat.
I haven't got a goat.
Oh, no, you got a goat.
No, but Freddie Mercury had a nanny.
Yeah, nanny, did he? Oh,
Yeah,
well.
apparently so.
Yeah, the nanny. Nanny goat.
I can't remember what her name was.
Nanny goat.
Big fat fanny, he called her. That's
That's
right.
rude.
It's in the song.
Oh,
It's in Fat Bottomed Girls. I had a nanny we called Big Fat Fanny.
That's terrible.
There you go.
You bad pal.
It's not my fault. He wrote it.
I don't have both a mug. I've got it home.
Hey, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you
it's
like it.
lovely.
That's excellent.
I like it, right?
Does it change colour when you put your hot water in?
No, it doesn't. I'm the water.
Oh, you must have a dodgy one then.
I haven't. It's got white out on. The black cover of white out on.
That's right, but when you put tea in it, it turns white.
I didn't know that. Father.
Have you put hot water in it
No,
yet?
not yet.
No, okay, right.
A cup of cover.
Must have a dodgy one then.
That happens, man.
Well, unless it turns white. I mean,
I haven't used it yet.
Oh, you haven't used it yet? Well,
No,
it's probably fine.
No, what? How was Jennifer, sorry?
She's absolutely fine, thank you very much.
That Trumby's, I was run me mouth up again. Trumby.
What's that?
I was run me mouth up or something. Oh, yap him on him again.
Now, there's always a problem.
Yeah, I wasn't coming back, I was.
Yeah.
Take all this.
Yeah.
He's coming back, do you think?
Right, I'm...
In America.
Yeah.
To that lad.
Yeah.
Him shot leaving the scene and that. He should have been.
Yeah, definitely.
It's terrible.
No, I think something's going to happen there. That's the next thing. They've demanded that she comes forward, so I think she's going to have to, of course.
Yes. Oh, yeah, but sleep at night. It'll be a week on me.
Scary.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Horrible. Even just to think that you've done that to somebody else's child, that's got to live with you forever, you would have thought, wouldn't you? That's the thing.
Let's see, what was Perhaps Elaine's in, where is she? She was in Croatia. Now she's in Rome with her husband.
Oh, right,
In
okay.
Rome. She went down Saturday to come back with mother.
Right.
She comes out all over the place, been everywhere.
I know.
She's been Australia.
Fantastic, isn't it?
She's been to New York.
Yeah.
She's San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
Been all over the place. All over the place.
Is she on the run?
No, she's been to save up. He got some redundancy money years ago. Save up.
No, they save up. Right. Okay.
Both
Oh, that's good then. Well, they're enjoying themselves as best they can. Why not?
Little granddaughter, lovely.
Absolutely.
Great-granddaughter, Emily.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
Is there anywhere you would still like to go to, Jean? You got a wish list?
Wish list. And so you back to college. Took a bad turn.
No, you want
I'll get back, don't we?
You will, absolutely.
I had a nice time in London. I don't know where them. I've been on London before about September. Right. You're going to track them down.
Right.
Hope I get them back on. I didn't tell you then.
No, I hope so. I hope so too, because I mean they're no use to anybody but you.
No,
anyway.
they're lovely, aren't they?
Right, do you want to say hello to anybody?
Yeah, Linda Sunbarrow, Angela Sunbarrow, and Neil, and Hanson Wardley.
Right.
And Richie and
Scary.
Scary Fairy.
Right.
Fairy. And Richard, I've got his money for it. I couldn't find a ticket. They give us together something. But I'll get me his money back. Oh, but off in the horse. I'm not going to steal it off him. I've got him really.
Is that a type of car?
No.
A hoof? He drove off in a hoof?
No, I didn't blame.
Is it like my new Nissan?
Huh?
Is it like one of the new Nissans?
No, a hoof, man.
I know what kind of car's a hoof.
And
Never come across it.
And no, man.
He drove off in a hoof. What kind of car is it? Is it like a soft top?
You didn't, man. You're on the way now. You hit the thing. When we come to see you, we sit on the bench.
Yeah, but he drove off in a hoof.
No, I didn't see. I went away in a hoof, man.
You went away in a hoof?
I've got your money. I've got your money there.
Right.
I'm not going to steal money off people.
No, of course
not.
not.
I've got your money there.
Oh, we know you. We know you better than that.
Yeah, bit of one.
There you go. No,
I got
absolutely.
to build something, didn't I? I'm sorry for touching your hair.
That's all right.
Sorry for touching your hair.
It's stuck in. Well, it's fine.
I'm not going to pull your hat off, Angela. I've seen that pull your hat off. You shouldn't have done that.
Well, you've knocked me hat off before. But Jean, thank you for calling.
All right. See you later.
Bye, Jean. Bye. There's Jean disappearing. Very close to a fourth clue. But before we move on to Matthew, quick bit of music. We are a friend of the stars. I think it's safe to say we're very lucky. We've had most of them on the show at one time or another. And, you know, quite often people say, oh, when you're getting it on, whose music do you listen to? And some people say Barry White. But as far as I'm concerned, there is only one man who we could talk about in this fashion. Lionel Richie.
When people say that the music that they listen to when making love is your music, do you do this on purpose? Do you say, I'm going to create babies all over the world with this
well,
next
as long
time?
as they don't call me and tell me their name's Lionel Richie, I can handle it. You know what I'm saying? But the trick here is that the funniest things happen to me when I happen to get people telling me about me in their bedroom. And I can tell you, I had this 240-pound man walk up to me and say, Lionel, I've made love to you many times. And I said, that's a damn lie. Well, the truth of the matter is that, they tell me about the times they were with their wives and their girlfriends and stuff, and I don't really think I need to know all of that,
No.
But it is quite an interesting place where I am, where I've actually been very much a part of their weddings and their anniversaries and their meetings and their engagements and elopements. And
as long as that guy didn't show you any photographs.
You understand me? It could get dangerous. I could tell you some stories, so believe me. I'm doing pretty good here because I mean, these fans of ours out here, we've got a problem. They want to tell me every story, and the thing about it is, I feel quite privileged the fact that they want to share this with me. But some things I just don't need to know.